too positive when I asked them, is this man going to survive? Shot 7 times here, right outside the main doors of the Criminal Justice Center. And look, you can see the City Hall clock tower, and in the foreground where this man collapsed before police got to him, right on the very same block where District Attorney Larry Krasner's office is. Coincidentally, he'll be having a news conference in about 5 hours to talk about gun violence like he does every Monday. But this week will be different because this week we went over 400 homicides. Both he and the mayor called them both preventable violence acts. And he usually every Monday tries to get a lot of community leaders behind him, always has some kind of news on grants or some kind of way to prevent gun violence. But 2 weeks ago, as I reported here, he said how violence was down, 3 to 5 murders a week, which was positive news considering the year we had. But since he said that 2 Mondays ago, we've had 40 murders, including this latest scene of violence here and what happened over the weekend.
Okay, so Larry Krasner, he is one of the most criminal-friendly prosecutors in this country, along with Marilyn Mosby in Baltimore and Kim Foxx in Chicago. And I forgot the lady's name in St. Louis. It'll come to me, but the lady in St. Louis, Kimberly Gardner, that's her name. Those 4, now there's plenty of them. It's dozens and dozens of these prosecutors that are very soft on crime, but Larry Krasner, he's in that big 3 with that big 4 with Kim Gardner in St. Louis, Marilyn Mosby in Baltimore, and Kim Foxx in Chicago. And he just recently got reelected. So the Fraternal Order of Police attempted to paint Krasner as soft on crime, even going as far as to park a Mr. Softy ice cream truck outside of his office. Oh. And of course, Ben and Jerry founder, backed Larry Krasner because, only really gun violence is only a son problem in these cities. Okay? It's only a son problem. Solely. So Larry Krasner won his re-election over the other guy. And now you have what you have continuing from 500 murders last year, which was a record. And you guys got to understand the jump that Philadelphia is taking. It's not like other cities that are bad on crime, okay? They have a lot of crime. It's not like that. It is insane the jump that the crime has done in Philly. Just look at that. Look at Philly throughout the years. Now, Philly, if you know about the streets and the underworld, Philly was always a very dangerous place. It was always known as a bastion, a haven of son violence. And Philly dudes ain't nothing to mess with. Philly dudes, they got a reputation around the world. In the penitentiary, on the street, they not to be messed with. However, look at that jump. Now, it's already been going up because of this soft on crime prosecutor who just, you saw with Kim Foxx. I've shown you Kim Foxx throwing out 25,000 cases. They just throw everything out. They don't prosecute people. Like, if you commit a crime in Philadelphia, they're probably not going to prosecute you for it. Even a violent crime. So it's just the way it is. And if you do get prosecuted for it, you're going to get a friendly sentence. So crime, as you see, has been percolating on. It's been ticking upward since 2017. 18, 19, and then boom, 2020. And then this year is a repeat of 2020. 40 murders in the last 2 weeks. My God. Could you imagine living in a city where there were 40 murders in the last 2 weeks? They have neighborhoods in Philadelphia where there have been 40 murders this year. Can you imagine living in a neighborhood where 40 people have been murdered this year? And 40, 50, 60 were murdered last year? 100 people have been murdered since the beginning of 2020 in your neighborhood? Could you imagine that? What type of place that is? How the children behave there? Because if think about how kids are going to act if 100 people are murdered in their neighborhood since the beginning of 2020. They're going to look at little stuff as nothing. Like all the kids, like they're going to look at carjacking, burglaries, disrespect, beating up people, playing a knockout game with seniors. That ain't nothing because like it's 100 bodies dropped in their neighborhood. So they're not going to be looking at it like they're doing anything really bad. And then also you have the effect that they're going to be acting out because of the violence, because their friends are dying. They're dealing with the trauma of their friends dying. They're dealing with the trauma of them being shot at, the fear that they're going to be next, the fake tough bravado. A lot of kids going to be acting super duper tough, like they, trying to, ward off potential threats. Could be a lot of stuff. These are going to... So soft prosecutors destroy neighborhoods in more ways than one, in a myriad of ways.
Too positive when I asked them, is this man going to survive? Shot 7 times here, right outside the main doors of the Criminal Justice Center. And look, you can see the City Hall clock tower. And in the foreground where this man collapsed before police got to him, right on the very same block where District Attorney Larry Krasner's office is. Coincidentally, he'll be having a news conference in about 5 hours to talk about gun violence like he does every Monday. But this week will be different because this week we went over 400 homicides. Both he and the mayor called them both preventable violence acts. And he usually every Monday tries to get a lot of community leaders behind him, always has some kind of news on grants or some kind of way to prevent gun violence. But 2 weeks ago, as I reported here, he said how violence was down, 3 to 5 murders a week, which was positive news considering the year we had. But since he said that 2 Mondays ago, we've had 40 murders, including this latest scene of violence here and what happened over the weekend.
I'm flabbergasted. I'm upset. I'm frustrated. I feel like I'm underachieving at this point because it's like there's a lot of work and effort that's being put in, and I'm just looking for answers at this point. I'm really looking for answers, and I feel as though we're doing all that we can. I just need everybody then surrounded. And like I said, the same as it takes a village to raise a child, it's going to take a village to heal this pain that's going through in Philadelphia.
Okay, so this guy is an activist. He has a foundation. He's probably gotten a grant from the government to do work in the community. And he says he feels like an underachiever. And my heart goes out to this brother because he seemed like a dynamite guy, man. Also brave guy. Like if you're doing this work in Philly, this is one thing I want you guys to understand. Even though I'm on record adamantly and unflinchingly saying that this type of stuff doesn't work, these guys are still super duper brave. Okay? These guys are still remarkably brave. Just to walk down the street in some of these neighborhoods, you get that tingling in your spine. You get that, because the body reacts. Fear is not like, everybody gets scared. Some people don't show it. Some people, but your body senses fear more than even when your brain doesn't. So your body will sense fear, and you'll get these. Your stomach will start bubbling. Maybe you got to fart, or maybe you'll feel that in your spine, or your heart will start beating. Whatever it is, they call it bubble guts, but whatever it is, your body starts. Some of these neighborhoods, Philadelphia, Chicago, D.C., Baltimore. The only way you could walk down these streets at certain times is if you don't know no better. But once you know better, like say you're like a tourist and you're just lost, even then you're gonna feel it. But just walking down the street in some of these neighborhoods is dangerous. It will make your body react a certain way. These guys are out there talking to the shooters and trying to squash beefs and trying to mediate issues, and yikes, man, these guys are super brave.
Frustrated. I feel like I'm underachieving at this point because it's like there's a lot of work and effort that's being put in, and I'm just looking for answers at this point. I'm really looking for answers, and I feel as though we're doing all that we can. I just need everybody in surrounding it. Like I said, the same as it takes a village to raise a child, it's going to take a village to heal this pain that's going through in Philadelphia.
Well said there, and I'm sure Mr. Krasner will have a lot to say. The mayor will probably be talking about this somewhere, and it's not just going to be written statements that could suffice the press and the public when we hit a number 400 earlier than we've ever hit it before. And the next number 500, that will get even more headlines, and we're probably going to head that way as well, since it's still September and we have a whole fall season ahead of us, and then the Christmas week as well. So just awful news to start the week here. And Mike, Karen, we have started so many weeks this way, haven't we, about violent weekends?
We certainly have.
So the gun memorial, Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, it has a lot of Muslims, okay? A lot of Nation of Islam type Muslims, Sun Muslims. And Philly's also 52% Sun population, so it's a huge city. Look at these young people, though. Look at the women. Like, look at how many girls get shot. And I'm going to show you, and this is something you guys might say, well, why are you always talking about little girls getting shot? Or why is he always talking about women getting shot? Because that tells you how dangerous a place is. When women are shot in the streets, like this girl shot in the head at Jerome Brown Playground. She was shot in the head of the playground. And this is they can't even keep up with Philadelphia, because if you look at it, they had to take a break. The gun memorial, it was too many murders. We got September 20, then it jumps down to August 29th, so it's almost a 20-something day gap, because it was too many murders. They couldn't keep up. The gun memorial couldn't keep up. Look at this girl. She was killed in a ShopRite parking lot. Gunfire erupted. When you see women getting shot like this girl, she was killed near Temple University. All these beautiful girls, man, young girls, the whole life. So when you look at it like that, you have to. It's a very dangerous place. 10-year-old girl. Very dangerous place, okay? Very, very dangerous place. Okay? Look at this guy, Shaquille. Okay? How many Shaquilles you think have been killed in Philadelphia this year? Just Shaquilles. Just people, like, you can go to these names. There's certain names on this list. There's certain names on this list where you're going to be like, it's more people with that name, like this, Tariq. It's more people with that name that's going to get killed in Philadelphia this year that might be killed in your city if you live in a smaller more rural town. Okay? Like this one, Khalif. There's going to be more Khalifs killed in Philadelphia this year than all the people killed in your town. A lot of these names, that's what you got to understand. Khalif. How many Khalifs going to get killed? Like,
report good news. This is not that week. The year-to-date homicides are 404. As of last year on this date, there were 341. This is an increase of 18% over last year. What we saw over the last several weeks was that the level of increase was coming down. It peaked at about 36%, and then it was coming down. And as early as last week, we were down to about 16%. But we're going back up. The increase is up to 18% as compared to last year, and obviously that's a tremendous concern to all of us. The number of homicides for the week September the 18th through September the 24th was 14. The number of non-fatal shootings was 33. If we compare that to what we have seen during the pandemic, there has for a long time been an average of about 1.5 homicides per day. That comes to about 10.5 per week. This is 14. So this is higher over the last week than the average that we have seen during the pandemic. During the week, there were also 254 gun, meaning gun possession, or gun violence incidents. Of those 254 incidents, 101 arrests were made by law enforcement, and so far we have 97 cases opened and charged by the DAO. I do want to point out a positive development, which is that in the last week, the Philadelphia Police Department made 16 arrests for homicides. Those arrests, of course, were not for cases that occurred during this last week. Those arrests were, in general, for cases where warrants had been issued in the past. But I definitely want to give credit to the detectives and personnel in the PPD's homicide unit for a job well done. That's a very high number of arrests that occurred.
okay. Now that they've arrested them, they're handing them over to you, and you're going to let them free. So what's the point here? This is the thing about prosecutors. They really have so much power because now the ball's in his court. And he's going to drop the ball because that's what he does. It's not like he's going to change on a dime like this. You need the way you change the situation in Philly is to get a new prosecutor. This guy's not going to change. He's who he is. Mr. Softy, as they call him. You need a new prosecutor, and it's going to be a while because you just had the election earlier this year in May. I think it was June, May or June, whatever. So he just got reelected. How could you reelect this guy in the midst of this crime wave? It just shows you how Sun people, and when you have a city full of Sun people and pasty liberals, it's just naturally going to be a hellhole.